In this section, we're going to introduce how do we build a single loop quant model. As a reminder, we started this module off by talking about how we answer the question, how does your product grow? Answering this question in an incredibly consistent way across the organization is important for things like prioritization, strategic bets, as well as investments. We started by building a qualitative model by mapping out the different steps of our acquisition, habit loops, as well as linear activities. What we're going to do in this module is talk a little bit more about the loop-specific quant model, and in a future section, we'll be talking about how we bring it all together in a tops-down view of an end-to-end quantitative model. As we build out these different types of models, they build on each other. The qualitative model informs our single loop quant model, and our single loop quant models inform our end-to-end quantitative model. So let's talk a little bit more specifically about the single loop quantitative model. As a reminder, different types of models have different strengths and weaknesses. The single loop quant model helps us validate and prioritize ideas around a single loop without dealing with the end-to-end quantitative model, but it doesn't really help us understand how multiple loops work together and influence each other. In order to build out the single loop quant model, we're going to start with something that looks like this. We're going to map out the steps in the output metrics, then define the conversion formulas, and then understand what are all of the different conversion variables within those formulas. We'll be going through a couple different examples. We'll start by filling this out for the Q&A content site core around their core content loop, and then we'll translate this into an Excel spreadsheet quantitative model that we can use to help prioritize and validate specific ideas and specific variables. We'll be doing the same thing with a sales loop from New Relic, where we map out all of these different components of this single loop and then translate it into the Excel quant model. To do this, we'll be walking through a number of different steps. We'll start by writing out the steps of the loop, then defining the output metric for each step, then defining the conversion formulas between each step of the loop, inserting the baselines for each conversion variable, and finally, assembling and evaluating our quantitative model within our Excel spreadsheet. In the next lesson, we're going to kick off by talking about the first two steps, the loop steps, as well as the step outputs.